For the last 3 years, rent prices across America did something nobody saw coming. And landlords are freaking out in 2025. Hit that subscribe button right now for more deep dives into America's hit Vegas. And it hit hard and fast. The population shot up by 18%, with families looking for more space and businesses, trying to escape high taxes, and retirees chasing the sun. New suburbs just started sprawling out across the desert, and family-friendly entertainment. Options popped up that had nothing to do with gambling. The Raiders Stadium and the NHL's Golden Knights helped build a real sports culture. But then 2025 rolled around and brought a serious reality check. Tourism never quite bounced back. Construction costs went through the roof, and the entertainment industry was really struggling. It turned out that post-pandemic travel habits had changed for good. Tourism was down 22%, and convention cancellations were piling up. A lot of business conventions just moved online, and people weren't spending as much on entertainment. The service industry jobs, which are the lifeblood of Vegas, just couldn't keep up with the rising rent. On top of that, water restrictions started threatening any further expansion into the desert. Lake Mead's water levels hit a critical low. So you had casinos offering discounts on rent, free show tickets, dining credits, pretty much anything to get people into those empty units near the Strip. But the water crisis was raising some serious questions about whether a city in the desert could survive long-term. Vegas learned a tough lesson. Changing economy, and let's get into it. Kicking things off at number 10, Austin, Texas. You just can't build a permanent city on the back of temporary entertainment. All right, number 4 is Portland, Oregon. For a long time, Portland's unique quirkiness was its biggest selling point. That Keep Portland Weird vibe drove rents through the roof, right up until being weird just got too expensive. What was once a hipster paradise turned into an economic exodus. A 12% rent drop served as a reality check that creativity alone doesn't pay the bills. Between 2018 and 2023, Portland was the place to be for creative types and the tech spillover from Seattle. You had Nike expanding, Intel was growing, and there was a booming startup scene. Tech jobs shot up by 31%, and its food truck culture became world famous. It was the capital of craft brewing, with an art scene that could go toe-to-toe with Brooklyn. Keep Portland Weird wasn't just a slogan, it became an international brand. Remote workers were flocking there, choosing the city's unique character over convenience. But then in 2025, weird got expensive. Expensive got dangerous, and dangerous led to an exodus. Concerns over public safety started to crush the city's cultural appeal. You started seeing downtown businesses boarding up their windows and tech workers deciding to relocate. The city's creative economy just couldn't survive. Austin's rise to the top was legendary, and now, so is its fall. It went from Silicon Hills to Ghost Hills, when potential customers were too afraid to even visit. And the pipeline of new talent began to dry up as more families chose to live in the suburbs. Landlords are throwing in free parking, pet-friendly perks, and even deals with local breweries and art studios. But then you have tech companies demanding everyone come back to the office, which totally kills the remote work advantage. Portland learned the hard way that a cool culture doesn't pay the rent, especially when safety becomes a concern. Even a city that prides itself on being weird needs a basic foundation of security. The situation in the Pacific Northwest is getting more complicated, but the story on the East Coast is even bigger. Number 3, Seattle, Washington. Seattle's whole tech empire was supposed to be bulletproof. With giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Boeing, it seemed like they had untouchable demand. But the Emerald City is now home to ghost towers. We're talking a 16% crash in rent, as even the biggest tech titans are showing cracks. Between 2015 and 2022, Seattle became the global tech capital outside of Silicon Valley. You had Amazon's explosive growth, Microsoft's dominance in the cloud, and a startup scene that was absolutely thriving. Tech job growth shot up by 45%. The South Lake Union area was transformed from, we're talking a 14% rent collapse year over year, which is the steepest drop in the entire Sunbelt, an industrial wasteland, into a gleaming tech corridor. Glass towers popped up like modern cathedrals to technology, with average tech salaries around $180,000. Paying $3,000 a month for rent seemed reasonable. Bidding wars were the norm. The Amazon effect rippled through absolutely everything, including Boeing's aerospace industry, Starbucks' global headquarters, and all those startup unicorns. It really felt like Seattle was unstoppable. But 2025 brought a humbling reality check, with massive tech layoffs and the permanent shift to remote work. The city's appeal started to fade. That tech bubble burst, and it hit Seattle the hardest. Amazon got rid of 18,000 jobs, and Microsoft cut 10,000. Remote work just sucked the life out of downtown. Sure, the commute got better, but only because nobody was driving to work. Restaurants, shops, and other services simply collapsed. The psychological impact on the city was devastating. The pandemic changed how we all live and work, and Seattle's prestige just couldn't compete with smaller, more balanced cities. The exodus of people wasn't a sudden flood, but it was relentless. Every family that left took a piece of the city's stability with them. Downtown vacancy hit 31%, which is the highest it's ever been. Those shiny towers that were once monuments to innovation now stand half empty. Between 2020 and 2023, Austin basically became America's new tech mecca, with remote workers flooding in from California, reflecting the clouds and a very uncertain future. Now, tenants are the ones calling the shots, negotiating flexible leases and lower rent. The entire power dynamic has completely flipped. The Seattle skyline still gleams through the mist, but underneath it all lies a deep sense of fragility. The cracks in the foundation aren't from an earthquake. They're from an economy learning that even tech dreams have their limits. The Pacific Northwest is definitely struggling, but it's nothing compared to the collapse happening in California. Number 2, San Francisco, California. If any city today defines the word collapse, it's San Francisco. It went from the crown jewel of innovation to an almost unrecognizable wasteland. Rents have plummeted 15%, and vacancy rates are shattering every single record. Those once exclusive towers are now practically begging for tenants at $3,000 a month, incentives included. For decades, San Francisco was the heartbeat of American innovation. Google, Facebook, Twitter, Uber. Nearly every world-changing startup got its start here. Between 2010 and 2022, venture capital just flooded Silicon Valley. The tech market cap hit $2.3 trillion. There were IPO parties every week. A starting salary of $200,000 was just normal. Venture capital pouring in, and billion-dollar startups popping up everywhere. The city branded itself. Housing became less of a home and more of an investment vehicle. We're talking $4,000 studios with 12-month waitlists, and foreign billionaires. They were buying up towers without even seeing them. The demand from tech workers made any price tag look reasonable. This was the city that set the housing price floor for the whole country. But 2025 brought a total unraveling. The tech exodus never reversed, and remote work just became the new normal. We're talking 87,000 tech workers gone, leaving downtown 40% empty. It was a perfect storm of dysfunction. Huge tech layoffs, a surge in crime, a decline in quality of life, and a regulatory nightmare. Downtown turned into a canyon of silent glass towers. Entire city blocks became ghost corridors. For lease signs just blended into the scenery. Meanwhile, property taxes, maintenance, and insurance costs doubled, completely wiping out any profits. Investors were completely trapped, unable to refinance without losing millions of dollars. But this goes beyond economics. It's about perception. The crime, homelessness, and general dysfunction sent potential renters running. In the restaurants, boutiques, and galleries, the very things that defined the city's unique charm are closing down. It's leaving a cultural vacuum where that irreplaceable character used to be, as the new Silicon Valley. And for a while, it really lived up to the hype. Downtown cranes were filling the... Even its prized identity as a tech hub is fading, as companies ditch their headquarters for cheaper cities. Landlords who used to boast about their passive income are now practically begging for tenants. The irony is just haunting. The city that set the housing price floor for everyone is now showing us just how far the market can actually fall. San Francisco's decline isn't a temporary dip, it's a fundamental transformation. But even this seems small compared to our number one, New York City. And in the top spot, the empire is finally showing its cracks. The untouchable is taking a fall, a 12% crash in Manhattan, with a 15% collapse in Brooklyn and Queens. For generations, New York's rental market seemed absolutely bulletproof. No matter what the economy was doing, no matter what crisis hit, demand always came roaring back. But the empire of rent is finally hitting its ceiling. For 150 years, New York meant opportunity. From Ellis Island to Silicon Alley, every generation came here to chase their American dream. Between 2010 and 2023, money from all over the world poured into Manhattan. These global capital inflows hit $47 billion a year. Skyline 24/7. Luxury towers like The Independent and 70 Rainey seemed to sprout up overnight. Landlords couldn't. Billionaires Row rose above Central Park. $100 million penthouses were selling before the construction was even finished. This was where finance ruled the world, media shaped our culture, and fashion set the trends for everyone else. Young professionals would pay anything for a Manhattan studio because being close to the action was everything. And international buyers, who were the secret engine of this real estate machine, treated Manhattan like it was a global safe deposit box. International buyers made up 23% of all luxury home purchases. But 2025 brought the unthinkable. It turns out even New York City has its limits. A perfect storm is now destroying the very foundation of that demand. Corporate layoffs in finance, media, and tech are eating away at the renter base that always made the city so resilient. Wall Street is shedding jobs. The media industry is shrinking. And the funding for startups has all but vanished. That high-paying professional class is simply disappearing. You see it with Goldman Sachs' massive cuts, media companies shutting down, and tech startups failing. At the same time, international buyers pulled back because of global instability and tax increases. For the first time in recent memory, the ultra-wealthy are tightening their belts. Raise the rent fast enough. It got to the point where 12-month wait lists for an apartment became standard. Luxury rentals on Billionaires Row are being marked down by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now, owners of mid-market buildings are facing tough refinancing deals are just wiping out cash flow. And the young professionals who were once willing to pay any price, they're now heading for places like Charlotte, Nashville, and Philadelphia. The culture's still here, but fewer people can afford a ticket. For the first time in decades, renters finally have the upper hand, and landlords are scrambling to offer incentives. You're seeing it everywhere again. Free rent, waived deposits, and luxury upgrades just to get tenants in the door. The developers who bet on an endless flow of money are now watching their towers overlook half-empty streets. For the smaller landlords, the whispers about foreclosure have started. The math just doesn't work anymore. The energy that defined New York for a century is slowly spreading to hungrier, cheaper cities. New York's slowdown isn't dramatic, though. It feels more deliberate, like a slow contraction of a city finally learning its limits. For the first time in recent memory, even New Yorkers are admitting the unthinkable. The empire of rent has finally hit its ceiling. And when New York struggles, but in 2025, that fever has broken, and it broke hard. The average rent is down 14% from last year. America feels it. The financial capital, the cultural heartbeat, the global gateway. They're all showing cracks. The skyline is still brilliant, but underneath, there's a new reality. Ambition is finally meeting exhaustion. The city that never sleeps seems to be pausing, if only for a moment, to finally catch its breath. All across the United States, a quiet revolution is taking place. For the first time in over 10 years, tenants are back in the driver's seat. The era of bidding wars, applying for apartments sight unseen, and ruthless rent hikes is ending. It's being replaced by empty units, falling prices, and desperate landlords. From the tech exodus in Austin to New York's empire cracking, a pattern is emerging. This isn't just a simple price correction, it's a cultural shift. Millions are questioning whether renting or owning even makes sense when costs are rising way faster than wages. Developers built for luxury, but renters just wanted something livable. Investors chased returns, while families just needed stability. Now, the day of reckoning has arrived. Housing markets can't defy gravity forever. They shot up higher and faster than any other time in modern history. We're talking 60% increases, overnight bidding wars, and it absolutely destroyed families. Thousands of those slick new apartments built during the boom are now sitting half empty. Some cities will bounce back. Others are going to shrink. But everywhere, the lesson is the same. Even real estate empires have limits. What happens next will reshape the American map, with power flowing from the coasts to the heartland. From luxury to livability, and from speculation to sustainability. The rental revolution is just getting started. You've been watching Discover the Nation, your home for in-depth looks at America's biggest transformations. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, go ahead and subscribe, turn on your notifications, and share this video, because what's happening today in the rental market is just the start of a massive economic shift. The numbers tell the story, and that story is far from over. For the first time in a generation, the American dream of affordable housing might actually be within reach again. But that's only if we learn from the collapse that's happening right now. The cities that adapt will be the ones to thrive, with their rooftop pools just echoing with silence. The reason? The tech bubble didn't just burst, it went off like a bomb. The ones that don't will become cautionary tales. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time as we dig deeper into the forces reshaping our country. Until then, keep exploring the nation with us, one story at a time. The rental market is changing everything, and you've just had a front row seat to economic history in the making. The old rental empire is crumbling, and from the dust, a new American housing market is emerging. One where tenants finally have a real say, where landlords have to compete for your business, and where the dream of having an affordable place to live starts to feel real again. This is the moment that generations of renters have been waiting for. The power dynamic is finally changing, and the future of housing in America starts right now. Remember to hit that. Tech giants like Meta, Oracle, and Tesla completely wiped out Austin's base of high-income renters. Subscribe button and tap the notification bell, because this economic transformation we're watching is just getting started. More cities are going to follow suit. New trends will pop up, and we'll be right here covering every twist and turning this huge American economic story. Thanks for coming along with us on this look into the breakdown of America's rental empire. Keep watching, keep learning, and above all, keep discovering this country that's changing right in front of us. All across the country, you can see the signs. Empty high-end apartment buildings, landlords offering desperate deals, and families finally able to find homes they can afford. This isn't just a market correction. It's a fundamental shift in our society. 67,000 tech jobs simply vanished. And the developers who once bragged about those 12-month wait lists, the generation that was priced out of the housing market, is finally getting a real shot. Cities that pushed out essential workers like teachers and nurses might finally be able to welcome them back. The American dream, which has taken a beating from decades of speculation, is starting to show signs of life again. But big changes are always messy, and this housing shakeup is no different. Fortunes that were built on the idea of rent going up forever are now falling apart. Investment strategies, worth billions of dollars, are just not working anymore. The old playbook is useless now, and in its place, we're seeing a new reality take shape. Tenants who actually have some power. Landlords are being forced to compete on quality and price, and markets are getting back to basics, instead of just pure speculation. This is what a fair housing market really looks like. So the question isn't if this change is going to continue. The real question are now offering all kinds of desperate deals, like 3 months of free rent and waived security deposits. Which cities are going to adapt, and which ones will fight it every step of the way? We're watching history being made in empty apartments and with falling rent prices. The entire rental market is starting to shift, and you can feel the ripple effect from penthouses in Miami all the way to studios in Manhattan. A big change is already underway. The only question left is, where will you stand when the dust finally settles? Thanks for watching Discover the Nation. Until next time, keep a close eye on the changing American landscape. The story of our cities is, after all, the story of our nation. And that story is being rewritten right before our very eyes over the past 2 years. But now even throwing in concert tickets to sweeten the pot. The nickname Silicon Hills now just feels like a cruel joke. In downtown towers like the Independent and 70 Rainey, vacancy rates have soared to a 10-year high of 23%. Over in East Austin, which was once the heart of 23%, the city's creative boom, landlords are now slashing rent prices just to compete. For the folks who got in over their heads, the landlords who bought luxury condos at record prices, expecting the growth to never end. But now, in 2025, that whole empire is crashing down, and these numbers will definitely shock you. The profits are long gone. Their returns have evaporated under the pressure of high-interest loans and tenants who are nowhere to be found. But for renters, this is the break they've been waiting for. The city that got crazy expensive practically overnight is finally starting to crack. Austin's story is a clear warning. The faster they rise, the harder they fall. And the shockwaves are being felt all across the Sun Belt. But if you think that's something, just wait till you hear about Miami. Number 9, Miami, Florida. Miami's rental boom wasn't just big, it was blindingly fast. From a crypto paradise to a financial nightmare. We're talking an 11% drop in rent, with vacancies popping up all over Brickell. It was all fueled by the pandemic rush to leave big cities, a ton of crypto cash, and international investors looking for sunshine and status. The city quickly turned into a playground for billionaires and the new wave of remote workers. Between 2020 and 2022, rents just exploded, shooting up by over 60%. This pushed a lot of locals out and turned every downtown high-rise into a symbol of pure excess. The median rent skyrocketed from $2,100 to $3,360 in just 2 years. From Miami's playgrounds for billionaires to New York's untouchable high-rises, landlords are in a full-blown panic. But now, in 2025, that glitter is gone, and the crash is impossible to ignore. Average rents have already dropped 11% just since last year, and empty apartments are popping up everywhere, in Brickell, downtown, and Miami Beach. Those super hyped luxury towers that were all about ocean views and infinity pools, now they're advertising. Things like free parking, $0 deposits, and even $2,000 gift cards just to get people in the door. And it's not just that demand is down. Rising costs are absolutely crushing profits. For example, insurance premiums have tripled because of recent hurricane damage, leaving a lot of landlords underwater on their properties. On top of that, HOA fees have skyrocketed as buildings rush to comply with Florida's new safety laws put in place after that tragic collapse. We're seeing $50,000 special assessments, just wiping owners out. The result? Thousands of investors are now hemorrhaging cash every single month. And for some, the game is already over. Condos that were once worth $900,000 are now selling for $700,000. Or they're just sitting on the market, completely unsold. Even the Airbnb owners who were making a killing on vacationers are now bailing on the rents are down 15%, vacancies are through the roof, and there are desperate deals everywhere. Getting 3 months of free rent is becoming the new normal. Market because tourism is slowing down and the maintenance costs are eating up all their profits. Even the foreign investors, who have been Miami's financial lifeline for so long, are starting to back away, spooked by the city's growing hurricane risks and these never-ending special assessments. From a distance, the view still looks amazing. That turquoise water, the whole skyline glittering in the sun. But beneath all that glamour, the financial math just doesn't add up anymore. It's Miami's big cautionary tale. When luxury gets completely disconnected from reality, even paradise can come crashing down. Number 8. Atlanta, Georgia. Now, Atlanta was supposed to be a different story. It was seen as the safe bet in the South. You had a booming job market, housing was still affordable, and there was a huge wave of people moving in from both coasts, which made the city a darling for developers. And they rushed in, pouring billions of dollars into new apartment complexes all the way from Midtown to Sandy Springs. Between 2021 and 2024, more than 50,000 new units hit the market, which was way more than the city could actually handle. That whole build it and they will come philosophy? Today we're counting down the top 10 cities where the rental bubble is bursting the hardest, created an absolute feeding frenzy. But now, here in 2025, that boom has officially turned into a bust. Rents have dropped 9% compared to last year, more places are sitting empty, and you can bet developers are starting to sweat. Those high-rise apartments that used to have a waiting list are now half empty. But the problem is a lot bigger than just overbuilding. People's paychecks have stayed the same, while inflation is taking a huge bite out of everyone's budget. Companies are tightening their belts, and that's hitting the job market in a big way. Now landlords are offering 3 months of free rent, free parking, and no security deposit. Basically, anything they can think of to get tenants in the door. The highways are still packed with traffic, but people's wallets just can't keep up with how expensive everything has gotten. Atlanta had to learn a tough lesson. Even a sure thing can get oversupplied. Just because you build it doesn't mean they will rent it. But that's nothing compared to what's going down in Phoenix. Number 7. Phoenix, Arizona. The growth in Phoenix was just relentless, spreading out. Make sure you stay for number 1 because what's happening there is going to change everything you think you know about. Rents there have cratered by 8% as reality finally set in. Between 2020 and 2023, Phoenix was the picture of the American dream. You had affordable houses, no state income tax, and endless sunshine. Folks from California flooded in looking for more space and a chance to save money. New communities were popping up constantly. You could get luxury amenities and resort-style living for just a fraction of the cost on the coast. The population boomed by 15%, but then 2025 rolled around and delivered a harsh reality check. Record-breaking heat waves, water restrictions, and a strained infrastructure. We're talking 129-degree heat. AC bills were averaging $400 a month. And the reason? Climate change was making desert life pretty much unbearable. Days of 115-degree heat would last for weeks. You couldn't even refill your swimming pool. Golf courses were turning brown. The infrastructure just couldn't handle the pressure from the climate. Rolling blackouts started becoming a regular thing. Landlords couldn't deal with the soaring utility costs, and renters started heading for cooler parts of the country. The American housing market. This is economic warfare, and for the first time in a decade, it looks like the tenants are winning. Phoenix learned what the indigenous people have always known. The desert has its limits. Cheap rent doesn't mean much when the climate decides to fight back. But Denver's fall from its mountain high is what's really got everyone talking. Number 6, Denver, Colorado. Denver's boom was basically the Colorado gold rush all over again. It had it all: legal cannabis, an outdoor paradise, and a tech boom. But those mile-high dreams came with mile-high prices. Now a 10% rental reality check is hitting America's playground. Between 2019 and 2024, Denver had become the place to be for millennials. You had legal weed, world-class skiing, and the flexibility of remote work. The cannabis industry blew up, reaching $2.2 billion. Tech companies moved in to attract top talent. It was the craft brewery capital, an outdoor gear paradise with progressive politics. It was the perfect storm to draw in young professionals. But in 2025, reality hit hard. The cannabis market got oversaturated. Tech layoffs started piling up, and the cost of living was just crushing dreams. That cannabis gold rush turned into an oversupply nightmare. Prices plummeted by 60%. This is Discover the Nation, and today we're exposing the cities where rent is collapsing, and dispensaries were closing their doors every week. The tech layoffs sent ripples through the whole economy. And that remote work perk? Well, it started to fade. Vanished once everyone started working from home. Landlords were trying everything, offering ski lift tickets, credits at local breweries, and discounts on hiking gear, basically anything connected to the mountain lifestyle. But young professionals were still choosing cheaper mountain towns or just leaving Colorado altogether. The average rent fell from $1,800 down to $1,620. Denver found out the hard way that a great lifestyle doesn't pay the rent. Even a paradise needs a solid economy to survive. But what happened in Denver was nothing compared to the situation in Las Vegas. Coming in at number 5, Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas literally bet the house on non-stop growth. And for the first time, the house actually lost. Sin City went from boomtown to economic limbo with a 13% drop in rent, as their ultimate gamble completely backfired. Between 2020 and 2024, Vegas was becoming more than just an entertainment hub. It was actually becoming a place to call home. No state income tax, it was pretty affordable, and it had that 24/7 energy. The exodus from California.